Right.
I'm Raleigh Mayer, and we're not doing a formal introduction, but I am known as the Gravitas Guru. And my practice and my core deliveries tend to be under the umbrella of communication and fall into three categories: powerful presence, persuasive communication, and positive relationship and reputation management. So when our very festive last year turned up, I realized that we were going to go into a whole new world. Here we are. I will never call it the new normal. It is now the old abnormal, but we're making the most of it. And tonight we're going to talk about what I call RQ, or reputation, remote quotient. See, I'm at the end of a long day too. Remote quotient, which is really about being as effective, as comfortable, and as confident online as possible. So since we have a nice cozy group, which I love, instead of doing formal polling and some of the other things, I'm just going to ask you all right now, how much do you like being on video? Because we're talking about video, not audio today. And Carrie, I know you're with us, so feel free to unmute. Everybody feel free to unmute and talk. And if you get noise at home, then you can take care of yourselves. Do you love it? Let's do 1 to 5. How many of you love it? This is the best thing that's ever happened in your professional lives. All right, 2, it's cool. You've gotten better at it. 3, if you have to do it, you're there. 4, not again. And 5, anything else with the video camera.
I'll go with a 3 also. I'm with you.
We got 2 3s. Stacy, Courtney, what do you think?
You know, it's a nice option. I don't love it, but I do love having the option. I think it's, I mean, if it's the video thing, I don't love seeing myself on camera, but the option to do it this way has been pretty awesome in a lot of ways.
Yes, yes. And Courtney, what do you think?
You're muted, Courtney.
Sorry. I've done it with my group, but I haven't done it with outside clients.
Interesting. Okay. And is that because there hasn't been an opportunity, or you've chosen not to?
Chosen not to.
Okay, fair enough. So we're going to look at some aspects of this handy dandy new environment, and some ways to make it better, some ways perhaps to get more comfortable with it.
And to be fair, I'd be interested if you can kind of do it 2 ways, because I have not done it professionally. I've done it a lot personally, but I'm not feeling like I'm in a good place to do professionally. And unfortunately, I don't have to a lot, but I am resistant to doing it professionally.
And do you care to tell us why?
Shit. I don't do it enough, but I have a setup that allows me to look professional, and it's, you know, it's sort of I haven't created the environment to really work that way.
Okay, so thank you for saying that. And anybody else have any particular issues with Zoom? And again, we're going to focus more on the video aspect, but not exclusively. We're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about the physiology, which includes a lot of components of this kind of engagement. We're going to talk about the packaging, and then what I call the performance, how we actually communicate with people. So any other thoughts, complaints, questions, concerns that you've had?
Hi, this is Rupa. I just joined, so I apologize if I'm repeating somebody else's.
No, you're not, Rupa. We just got started. Welcome.
Thank you. So from my end, sometimes I feel like with a video conference or even just a Zoom meeting where where not everybody's cameras are on, or either way, on or off. Oftentimes we have both for work. I feel like I'm always talking over other people, I should say, and interrupt. And we feel like a lot of the meeting gets wasted in, okay, you go ahead. Sorry, you know.
Right.
I'm not sure how to avoid that, but it's certainly my concerns and pet peeves is that I don't want to seem rude, but I end up talking over other people.
Sure, and that's something we're going to address. And there are many things that happen repeatedly that are irritating and time wasters, and you're muted is one of them. So I'll talk about some workarounds. And Rupa, are you able to turn your camera on or not tonight?
Yeah, I can turn it on.
Wonderful.
My my tripod and I'll do that.
All right, take your time and we'll keep going. So, most people don't love it. Most of us have to be on, and it's not always comfortable, but we have to do it. And if we don't do it, there are some real liabilities, and we'll talk about that later. So as I said, we're going to look at 3 dimensions of this new environment. And congratulations. This is your brain on Zoom. It is really having that kind of impact on us for some real scientific reasons. And first of all, the technology itself. I mean, there are problems with it. Different people have different comfort levels with it. There are distortions. And there's something called predictive behavior. When we look at real human beings, we get a lot of important cues about their moods, about even what they're going to communicate next. The brain is very plugged in to the human dimension of communication when it has a visual. And I like to make the comparison, if you have a cat, a dog, or a child, if you have a video, say National Geographic, and it shows lions and tigers on the veldt, yeah, they might have get some attention, or they might give some attention to that program, but they're not likely to react in a very primal way. But you put a lion or tiger in your living room, you're going to get a reaction from pretty much any living thing there. But because when we look at video, even if we recognize the faces and we know they're our colleagues or our friends or our clients, your brain is very frustrated because at a very deep level, your brain knows this is not a person. This is the image of a person. This is a pixelated version of a person. And that's one of many reasons why we're so exhausted from doing these. If we have multiple engagements online at the end of the day, you're physically restrained. You can't just walk around because you'll disappear. You are visually restrained, a lot of focus and eye strain involved. And again, your brain is very, very stressed because it recognizes intellectually what's being seen, but not emotionally, not at a very profound level. So, we're dealing with very different circumstances, and it's been in every way stressful. People have different levels of emotional reaction to what's going on in the world at different times. And of course, our environments are different in every possible way, whether that's the space we have, whether that's the setup, as Courtney mentioned. No, I think it was, who said that? I think it was Lauren who mentioned that. There are things that are not ideal, and we're dealing with that, whether those are family interruptions, whether those are just our feeling of invasion of privacy, although that's not always a bad thing. Invasion's not a good thing, but that connecting factor. So there's a lot going on, and we need to recognize that in ourselves and with other people. So, in our engagements, and I know there are a lot of cocktails and various recreational things, it really can be extremely powerful to do fun or silly things from time to time with different groups. It often seems very, how shall I say, frivolous or unnecessary, but it's amazing. I've worked with clients, say, in technical capacities who think, oh, nobody wants to do a trivia night, but surprise, because again, we're human beings, we want to connect, and this is so different from being in a conference room or a cafeteria or any kind of real-time, real face-to-face interaction. You don't want to overdo it, but it's amazing how people crave connection. So if there's a way to provide that, it can be very, very much appreciated. And, I like to say small talk is big talk. One of my real observations about social interaction is this. There's a question we're asked almost every day, usually multiple times a day. We don't answer it very well. And what is that question?
How are you?
How are you? And how do we usually answer it?
Fine.
That's right, fine. Fine. So we're going to do a little exercise coming up because fine is a 4-letter word, starts with F. And when you hear fine, it's not very meaningful. And usually it means things are not that fine. So I encourage all of you to be more engaged and more genuine, not just with the other person, but with yourselves. So let's ask a second question, and we won't formal poll it. How well do you think you come across when you're visible? Do we have any movie stars? Is it neutral, or is it, oh my gosh, I can't believe she made me turn on the camera? We've got a nod from Mary. Which category are you in?
Uh, I'll go with, I can't believe you made me turn on the camera, but you're so nice. I was happy to do it.
Okay, anybody else?
I'm pretty used to it. I'm a teacher, so we had to start doing Zoom in March of last year.
So Lauren's used to it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that I'm now used to, getting up, getting ready, going to work, looking presentable.
So does that make you neutral or a movie star?
Movie star.
Well,
Of course it does.
it's generous. Definitely neutral.
Definitely neutral. Okay. And anybody else?
Yeah, it's neutral if it's my friends or a social thing, or it's, a large group. But if it's a professional thing, then it's oh my God, I have to do this.
Okay. And that's true for most people. There are very few movie stars out there. And there's a little secret to that, which I will reveal. And that's part of the packaging, how you can get closer to movie star, even if you're not totally wild about this kind of engagement. And the first thing is, again, we're not going to do a poll. Being deliberate about your appearance makes such a difference, because most of us, and this is this whole new Zoom culture, you can wear your sweatpants, you can wear t-shirts, and we can. I mean, I've been amazed at the contrast between the way some of my clients in asset management firms and consulting firms are appearing on video. And that's part of the benefit of this. We get to see each other as more human, more personal, maybe more connection, breaking down some barriers. But what I've also discovered is that when we tend to dress down, we don't tend to groom up. And I know personally, although I'm not always in my fine Tiffany jewelry, Mary, I really have a compulsion to sort of pull myself together, whether that means, I don't spend a lot of time with a blow dryer or a brush, but just doing something with my hair, with my face. Now, I am a typical makeup wearer, so I'm not suggesting you go out of your preferences. But I find that because of this comfort factor, this casual factor, I think it really makes most people even more self-conscious, because they're not seeing themselves the way they normally dress for work or the way they normally appear for work in many cases. So you want to feel good about yourself. And I compare that to doing a job interview on the phone. That if you put, your, so to speak, suit on and your game face on, and you sit up or you stand up and you deliver it like a presentation, you're going to be more structured mentally as well as physically. And again, that's even when you're not appearing on camera. So I'm a big believer, if there's something that makes you feel more work ready, more powerful, more polished, then do it, because it does make a psychological difference, as well as perhaps making you more comfortable with the reflection that you see.
But I mean, can I just argue
Please.
for 1 second though, that
Please,
the problem is
Stacey.
at work,
Yeah,
I'm not forced to look at how I look. I don't know
Right.
how I look at work. Here
Right.
I'm looking at myself and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just, I'm forced to do that in a way that is distracting, as opposed to not thinking about it.
yeah. And actually you're reinforcing my point, because we're stuck looking at ourselves. And honestly, one reason that I wear makeup every day, even when I'm alone, is not just that I'm incredibly vain, which I am, but I want to like what I see, whether it's in the bathroom mirror or on the screen. So that is a difficult thing. You're absolutely right. We're not used to confronting an image of ourselves. And that's very disorienting. You know, there's enough distraction with the other faces, with seeing our own movement. So whatever you can do to feel more comfortable with that reflection can be very helpful psychologically, as well as what you're projecting.
Right.
And 55%, this is some research that was done at UCLA some time ago, but still stands. 55% of the impressions we make and the way people make judgments about us, especially when they're meeting us for the first time, is based on visuals, not just appearance, not how pretty we are, how tall we are, although we're now all the same height sitting down. It's everything, the body language, the facial expression. People are reading so much into that visual. 35 is for something else that matters a lot. And this also factors into, I think, Rupa's question. What do you think the 35 stands for? And it's an impression maker in a big way.
Listening.
That's the perfect flip side, Courtney. It's tone of voice.
Mm.
Tone of voice. Huge impact. And when we're on video, again, because people are not getting the same cues, and we may not be projecting or speaking in the same tone with the same animation or dynamics that we would be in the room, that causes a lot of problems. It's a problem with that impression making. It's a problem with persuasion. It's a problem with engagement. And it also relates to Rupa's point about how you deal with that kind of chaos and disjointed communication. More on that shortly. Now, 10% is left for something that will make you very sad. And what's that? Pardon?
Don't know.
It's basically the content. And it's a sad fact, but it's true. Now, this is not to suggest that content doesn't matter. Far be it from me to say that. What it does suggest and demonstrate is that when content isn't packaged effectively, when it's not packaged effectively vocally or visually, and that's not just for us, that's for PowerPoint or anything else that's a visual medium, you're going to lose a lot of weight of that content. It's likely not to be as successful, not to be as clearly communicated or accessed. So this is a really important formula to look at. And going back to the 55, when someone meets us for the first time, here's something terrifying. They've studied at Princeton how long it takes to make a first impression, how long it takes to form judgments based on physical appearance, body language, posture, all of those things. Facial expression is a big one. How long do you think that takes?
3 seconds.
Less. It takes a fraction of a second. It's like a number like pi, about 5, spaces from the decimal sign. And what happens in that split second, and it is a microsecond, people are making judgments. This sounds crazy, but they've studied it and proven it. They decide how intelligent we are, how likable we are, how trustworthy we are. It's really quite amazing. And one of the problems with this medium is that when people get on the video, we tend to wait and see what's going to happen, or maybe sort of tentatively, I can't pronounce it, tentatively say hello or how are you. There's not a lot of dynamism. There's not a lot of enthusiasm. There's, we're going to look at our text. We're going to wait around. But somebody who sees us for the first time, they have to see us camera ready. It's like the curtain goes up on stage when that is a high stakes audience, or whether that's a new introduction. So that's really something to think about. It's not warming up and getting ready. It's being ready. And that makes a huge, huge difference in being on screen where you've just got those faces than in a room where you've got paintings and carpeting and tables, and there's just a lot going on. So that focus on us intensifies that scrutiny to see an animated, friendly, interested human being. And it really sets the tone for a lot of these meetings and conversations that we have. So this is where it comes to how to be effective and hopefully feel better with your presentation. The angle is everything. You want to try to be at eye level with your camera, wherever that is, so that you're not, as I helpfully demonstrate, looking down or craning your neck up. So that's one thing that is not hard to accomplish. Doesn't mean you have to have a perfect height desk or table. I actually am using a portable table because this is my TV cabinet behind me. And I have a box on top of it. And then I park my computer, and I call this the East Wing because I prefer working in the West Wing where I have a more comfortable chair, and I move back and forth all day long like a lunatic, but it works for me. So the height has a lot to do with how powerful you are in terms of that visual. Also, the distance you are from the camera. You want to be, when possible, framed in that camera so that you're not way, way back or not so far that you're distorted, because that will happen. And here I am posing with some colleagues, and let's just say we're very comfortable with each other. I also intentionally styled my hair there for this photo shoot. This has to do with that grooming up, because if you get too comfortable, and you never know, oh, there's my kitty. I didn't even realize she was there. You never know. That's Pansy. Hello, Pansy. She's over here now, out of camera range. You know, sometimes we do have to hurry up and get on these things. So you want to be ready. And on that note, let's see if I can show you me being ready. Come on. Aren't you going to play? All right, let's see if we can get it here. Is it coming in? Oh, I have two of them. Okay, here it is. Da. Yeah, it's 30 seconds. I timed it. And believe me, I have done that more than once. I actually keep a brush, a mirror, and a lipstick next to my East Wing.
I
So,
also
you
love
know,
the handy like hair clip.
yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. You know, you have to keep your equipment close by. So again, it has a lot to do with how confident we are. And if we're not confident, we tend to be less effective. So be ready. Be ready. All right.
There's a question on the camera thing.
Sure.
So I can't really tell. I think my camera is more or less at a place where it's almost eye level. It's not perfect, but the problem is if I'm looking at the camera, I can't look at the faces on the screen and get the reaction. And I can't see if I'm looking at the camera if I can't look at the screen.
You're absolutely right. There are two things that may be helpful. The first, Stacy, if you're able to be a little bit closer. And what I do when I'm speaking is I lean forward a bit so that I am closer to the camera, but also closer to the screen. So I have less depth to try to, you know, manage in terms of looking and talking. When I'm talking, I try to be more in line with the camera. And you're right, the reaction is hard to see. But what matters most is that you are aware of the other person. And it really, it's very complicated. And I really wish one of the incredibly advanced tech companies would hurry up and figure this out and put the camera in the middle of the screen, because it's rough. You're absolutely right. It's hard to do, but everybody does understand that. And the other option, the second thing, is to just vary your gaze. So at this point, I'm talking to make that illusion of eye contact. And then I'm looking at me. So you're over to the side, everybody. And, you know, then you glance at the real faces and you come back, because that isn't so different from the way we talk in the room. We don't tend to rivet our attention on one person. So it is a challenge. And that's another reason we're tired. We have to figure out where we're looking all day long, and it's not easy.
And you find yourself saying, you know, but I said this and I'm pointing it like Courtney, but she doesn't know that because she doesn't see me. But it's like, you know, you can't really, if you want to address someone, you just don't really know how to do it anymore.
And you just gave the perfect example. If you want to address somebody, and I'm going to say hello to Donna since I didn't before.
Yes, I'm sorry I was late.
Oh, please, we got started very late because everybody is busy. So that's not a problem.
And Raleigh, just so you know, nobody can see you right now because you're still showing your YouTube link. So
Oh, well,
no one
thank you.
knows where
Thank
your
you for
eyes are.
that. All right, let me get rid of YouTube. Are you back? Are we back?
You're still sharing your screen, so we don't see you. So if
I
you-
see
How
her.
very
You're
Oh, I
strange.
can see her.
I have
can?
her.
Where did I go?
I can see you, Rayleigh.
well, like if she's not sharing, she becomes the main person. Like she become, yeah, okay.
Okay, because I didn't stop the share. Am I still with you? Yeah?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
still there. You're just small. That's all. I just wanted to make sure you knew that you were little, not like. the
Oh,
whole
well,
screen.
small should be under your control, not mine.
Well, no, while you're sharing your screen, everybody's shrunk down on the side.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You can't have the
Right.
full gallery view. Right,
Right.
exactly. So, these limitations are weird. So that's why I do believe saying, Stacy, I absolutely recognize that point because Stacy could be anywhere on anybody's screen. These grids don't stay consistent for maybe not obvious reasons. I've never even understood the technology or the logistics, but we're always seeing a different layout. So nobody really knows who's looking at anyone, which is why it's even more important to be clear and direct in communication. If you're addressing someone, use their name. And also that animation really helps, especially if there are a lot of people on the screen. I don't mean cartoon animation, but being lively. Because, if you've got 20 people on a grid, it's hard to even figure out who's talking. It gets very confusing. And this is just a quick note about backdrops and various artificial backdrops. I strongly recommend no, Golden Gate bridges or Parthenons. It's a little distracting and we know it's not real. Now, Eric Wan, who's Zoom's chairperson, I'm sure that's a Zoom product backdrop, but at least it's subtle. It doesn't take attention away. That's me with my flowers, a different version. And that's my lifelong friend, Matthew, who is obviously a Star Trek fan, maybe not appropriate for our work, but he works for the Smithsonian Institute on Technology. And I think they all love Star Trek, so it works for him. And, we've all got life clutter in one way or another. And this is another thing about being comfortable with the background. That's why I put up and take down my studio every day. This is not appropriate for everyone. And believe me, I don't use it with all clients, but this is after hours, so we have to be festive. I have a plain white cabinet behind it. But if I've got stuff around, I clear it out, because again, it's something that will help you be more comfortable. And you also want as much focus to be on you as possible. And, we're all accommodating home situations, so you can only do that to the best of your ability.
Is there a way that you can, like a photo lens, you could crop yourself or?
You mean to be tighter on the screen?
Yeah.
The way to do that,
like leaning in, like.
yeah. Courtney, I don't know of a technical way to do it other than truly coming closer to your camera. So if your table is big, it's harder to do. If you can move your computer closer or some way, just like adjusting the height, you need to be physically closer.
But doesn't that sound weird though? Like in this day and age, you can like do everything on your cell phone and we can't like customize our camera.
You're right with me. And I wish you would
Yeah.
invent it and become a zillionaire, because the fact that the cameras are in the wrong place, that you can't, frame yourself automatically, it's a mystery to me too. And I think likely, I teach engineering students, not engineering, I teach them leadership and communication at Columbia University. I think if they want to be the next Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they better be working on this right now, because it's a real need. You're absolutely right.
And Rayleigh, I'd love to be able to press a button and get a great backdrop. And my apologies, because my husband was filling the dishwasher behind me, and I'm sure that was
And,
distracting.
I'm glad you mentioned that. First of all, I think you have the same cabinets I do, so I like the background. We mentioned this briefly earlier, but I want to reinforce we're at home. So
Yes.
if someone's got a really intrusive family member, or a lot of construction and the windows are open, or their dog, I have cats, they're pretty peaceful. If their dog keeps bounding back and forth and barking as Britt was managing before, and we love your dogs, Britt, but I know you were distracted by, you know, then it becomes intrusive, but we know we're at home. And I actually find it very charming that I've met people's children. I've seen their pets. You know, one husband walked by in a towel. I thought it was hilarious. Don't feel embarrassed or apologetic if you've got some interruption, because people understand, and actually it can be quite amusing. And it happens. I've gotten deliveries in the middle of things. It's just something we don't always have control over. So, setting your stage, and by lights, there's something very cool that I will show you in a moment. Having your video on, even if you're not comfortable with your backdrop, even if you're not feeling your most glamorous, it is so important, because otherwise it's literally like you're not even there. And that's when you tend to both check out mentally, because you don't feel like you're there. You're going to be more reluctant to speak up, and people won't see you. They won't be able to react to you or address you the way they would if you were visually present. And this is a neighbor of mine. He actually broadcasts for CBS News, and this was at the height of the pandemic, and they literally brought all this equipment to his apartment every morning. It was wild, and they were always apologizing to me about the noise. I never heard the noise. His camera crew brought my paper up from downstairs. I thought it was a wonderful arrangement, and I'm sorry they're gone, because he is now back in the studio. But we don't have to do this. All we need to have is some background we like, and these are the tools that make all the difference. Does anybody have a ring light?
A ring light.
Okay.
What does a ring light do? Because one of my big issues is, for some reason, the light in my room, I look like I am, it's not bad now. In the mornings, I am so pale. It is embarrassing.
Well, Stacy, this is going to change your life. Are you ready? I just turned my ring light off, and I don't have any other lights on at home. None. I just turned it on, and now you're going to see, it's like those old makeup mirrors. You can give different shades to your face. Isn't that fun? So that's the ring light. Here's the tone I prefer. It's amazing. I'll turn my camera around so you can see it. This is, whoa, well, I have to be careful of the wires. This is it there? Yeah, this is my ring light. It's like it's like a UFO landing.
Yeah.
It plugs into a USB port, and it costs about $70. They're on a tripod. You can adjust them. They're the most beautiful thing ever. If you want to film yourself, you can put your camera in the middle. And the other piece is a clipboard on the side if you want to see notes without looking down if you are presenting. So there are some wonderful gadgets. The ring light makes all the difference. It's amazing. And just so you know, well, we'll hold on to that in a second. You want your light, unfortunately, coming towards you. If you have light in back of you, it puts your face in shadows and you look like you're in a dungeon. It's unfair, but it's true. So yeah, the lighting's a big thing. And it also, the ring light does not cause eye strain and irritation the way a window would, a sunny window, because then you've got a lot of glare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
I
there
can also do that, but it's okay.
Yeah.
a brand that you like, or just?
I don't even know my brand, Courtney. I just know that my chief office wrangler, as I call her, ordered me one. So if you want my brand, I'll look it up and we'll send it to everybody. But the ring lights are amazing. They really
And where
Hi,
she
ma'am.
ordered it from. That'd be great, really.
Amazon. I got mine at Amazon. I don't know if everyone can see me. I'll turn mine off. And
Jamie, here you are.
yeah, so I got my ring light. I think it was $22 on Amazon. If you just search ring lights, I went with the reviews, and it's been really something that's helped me. I mean, I'm working out of a closet, so the lighting is terrible. But the ring light for $20 has been a lifesaver. So
hey, you saved money. I paid more for mine, but it's still working. Jamie, would you humor us and turn it off for a second, and we'll see the difference?
So that is off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a yellowish light. And I will turn it back on. And it just takes a minute to adjust, but I don't know. I really feel like it's been a game changer for me.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you can change the hue depending on sort of what you're trying to aim at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't play with it too much, but there's like a plus and minus button, so I can dim it down a little bit. I can plus it up. That's kind of as high as it goes. I keep it on the brightest setting, like at nighttime. And then during the day, if I have like natural light, I have a window behind me, I'll open up the window a little bit and get some natural light.
And do you have the tones, what I call the makeup mirror? The cool tones, the
So
warm
I think
tones?
I do. I'll be honest, this came with a whole kit of stuff. And I
Right,
haven't quite experimented with all of it yet.
okay.
I know it does have
If it's on your little remote, then you have it. It's just the one above the intensity of the light. So, you don't need that. Yours works perfectly well, whether you have it or not. But the ring lights, they really are incredibly effective, and they make you look better, as well as a feature on Zoom called Touch Up My Appearance. And Touch Up My Appearance makes me look a lot more adorable than I honestly do in real life.
Is that a free Zoom feature or a?
It's free. It's hard for me to look it up while I'm on the.
But you don't have to have.
PowerPoint.
I mean, I have the free Zoom. I don't have a professional Zoom, but it comes with the free Zoom.
Yeah, it's in there. It's
Okay.
just, I think it's on video, like extra, what do you call it? Advanced settings. You can
Okay.
find it. Yeah.
Okay.
So touch up your appearance, and it's like, I don't know, it's like you go and get what would it be? A laser treatment or something. It makes everybody very beautiful. I highly recommend it. So very quickly, if you wear glasses on camera, sometimes I do, you'll notice the broadcast professionals, Van Jones and Anderson Cooper, they have the glare-free lenses, whereas the doctor, a medical consultant, Dr. Shawless, is not wearing them, so you get that reflection. So if you're getting new glasses or care to buy them, get the non-glare, the non-reflective lenses. It makes a big difference. Okay, so placeholder photo. If you have to be off video, it's good to have a photo place. We talked about that, and that dress down, groom up. So here's Beyonce and what I call performance, but you don't have to be or dress like Beyonce, but it is a performance when you're on, at least initially, to set the tone and make that impression. So if you're going to do a presentation, make sure that you know the equipment you're practicing on. Do a rehearsal, do a run through. It is so stressful and disorienting and sometimes catastrophic not to test your equipment, to know how to host the show and different features and that sort of thing. It took me some time to figure it out. So the language of leadership, and this comes back to that 4-letter word, fine. It's very important to communicate in an upgraded way when really all we have is the language. We don't have, we can't point to flip charts, and we can't pass things around easily. I know they're Google Docs and you can post things on screen, but most of our communication is going to be verbal on these things. So your language should be powerful, not kind of, sort of, maybe, but we recommend, my experience has been, you want to be as powerful as possible, and you want to be precise. And here's the thing about those 4-letter words. We overuse so many words in spoken English, overuse them to the point where they're almost meaningless, and we say them like fine. And one of those words starts with a G. It's not a bad word, it's a positive adjective. It's not gravitas guru, my title. So what's that adjective? It starts with a G, and it's so overused.
Good.
Pardon?
Good.
Good, yeah.
Good is used a lot, and it's pretty weak, but there's one that's used more.
Great.
Yep.
Great.
The vacation was great. The meeting was great. Lunch was great. The family's great. Everything's great. It's meaningless. So give me 10 adjectives that are positive, that are more powerful. They're more precise. They mean something like great, a little different, but they're more interesting. Number 1.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
It really is late in the day.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna help you.
Fun.
Lunch was,
Delicious.
thank you. The
Delicious.
movie was,
Fabulous. No,
Fabulous.
no, we have that.
we had that, sorry.
Incredible.
Inspiring.
Incredible, inspiring. You
Incredible.
got two, all right? The program was,
Informative.
and the weekend was,
Relaxing.
Yeah.
there you go. There you go. But we don't, thank you, but we don't speak that way. Try speaking that way, and not only will people pay attention, you will speak more deliberately when you use more interesting, precise language. And when you use that kind of language to respond to that question, how are you? If you say fantastic, if you say inspired, what is likely to happen next?
Conversation.
That's right. They'll say, really? What's inspiring you? Wow, wonderful. What happened? And it's a way to connect with people. And it's a wonderful way to spend that time. I said wonderful, not great. While you're getting on these things and you're kind of waiting and you're wondering when it, and that mood just deflates until you engage with people. And that's a way to really pick up the conversation and get it going. And positive makes a difference. Any way you can engage positively, whether that's a compliment, whether that is encouraging someone to tell about their day or their project or whatever it is, people really respond to that. And even in language, the difference between I can't do it or would Monday morning be agreeable? It makes such a difference in how people respond to us and relate to us. So how do you get heard? Was that Rupa's question? I remember somebody asked that with all the clatter, or was that Lauren? Now I'm forgetting. Somebody asked how to deal with that talking over and the chaos of the online
I
community.
think Rupa had said that they have an issue with feeling like she talks over people.
Correct. So
Yeah.
here's the deal. We want to talk, we need to talk, but we want to have a collaborative conversation. Number one, there should be a moderator at every meeting if possible. Just someone who's nominated or appoints themselves to facilitate, to actually call on people, because it makes it so much easier. Now, how do you get called on? Well, there's that little hand function, which I don't think is that effective. I find it hard to notice and see. You lean forward and look like you have something to say, and people will see that. Or you raise your human hand, people will see that. And there's still going to be talking over. It's almost unavoidable. But I strongly recommend, and all we can do is set the example, or if we are in a circumstance, we certainly don't want to talk down to clients or customers, but when we're with colleagues, to say, look, if somebody's muted, you don't have to say you're muted. We know that. But you need to give a signal, and you can agree on what signal that might be, whether it's, shush. I always do this, like unlock your mouth, and people figure it out. So you don't want to repeat things that really aren't necessary or worth repeating. And the other piece of this is, if you talk over somebody, you don't need to apologize. You can raise the hand and then demonstrate who's going to go first. So a little bit of improvised sign language goes a long way, and it's not audible. So you don't get that constant clash of voices. Is that helpful, Rupa, or does anybody have other suggestions?
Yes, I mean, I don't think I've practiced the leaning forward part of
Yeah.
it. And part of it is sometimes I find myself in meetings where the cameras are not turned on.
Oh, right.
Yes. And I would, again, encourage you all to set the example of turning them on. And then if it's a comfortable environment, request that people turn their cameras on, and give those reasons that it helps you engage better. You can see when someone has something to contribute, and to gauge reactions, so you know whether your ideas are being well received or whether there's confusion. And that's something we don't need Bill Gates to figure out.
The other thing that I found is really helpful, and I have not had to run a meeting like this, but I've taken numerous classes, and over the past year, you started to have a moderator who's just in charge of maintaining the technology. and
Mhm.
maintaining the chat. So as a presenter, you don't have to be trying to find the questions and find out why someone dropped off and I have to get this person in. And that has made a lot of these, particularly classes, go a lot more smoothly if you have that resource.
Absolutely. You want someone to be hosting, and that should not be the presenter. It's also important, thank you for mentioning that, Stacy, that you give the guidelines up front. I always encourage people to turn on their videos, to unmute, I mean, when the occasion warrants. It's also sometimes best to say, please put comments in the chat, and then we'll open for questions at the end to give people a framework so they know what to expect. Absolutely. And once you've said what you mean, stop talking. That's a colleague of mine. Say what you mean what you say, stop talking. Because when we're talking to a screen, again, we're not getting as many cues. We don't feel the people around us. Sometimes we tend to ramble on more. And then we're not only using time unnecessarily, but we can lose our train of thought entirely. So I like to say, if you can't make your point on a Post-it, you have too much to say, or you don't know where you're going. So meetings, have an agenda, even if it's a loose one. Know where it starts, know where it stops. Facilitator, as Stacy just said. And this is Nora Lum, the actress. Do you know her? But Aquafina, you probably do. And that's the difference between being on and being off. And make introductions unless you're sure that the group knows each other. And have somebody keep a record, because you can't see who's taking notes. And sometimes you think someone's taking notes and they're, answering texts and doing their emails, which you have no control over. And next steps, this is so basic, but it tends not to happen with these videos. We become sort of robotic. And try using what I call the therapeutic hour, which I am failing miserably tonight since we didn't start quite on time. If you can end your meetings at 50, 55 minutes, just as if you saw a therapist, they wouldn't see you at 3 and stay with you till 4. They have notes to write, calls to return, maybe they need to pee or get a drink of water. And it is so hard to have a meeting stop at 3 and have to get on the next one at 4, and you have no window in between. So I strongly recommend saying at the top of the meeting, whoever is running the meeting or called the event, that we're going to stop at 50 minutes to make sure we wrap up, or we're going to stop promptly at 55 minutes to make sure everybody gets to their next destination, because it is just so fraught to try to be in 2 places at once. And, whether it's WebEx or Cisco or BlueJeans or Microsoft Teams, they all have different settings. And if you're not really familiar with getting on and off these platforms, it can take some transition time. And, I like to say we're all 2 years old. So treat everybody that way. Ask people to share if they haven't been forthcoming, because they may just be reticent and very, again, intimidated by the whole format. If you have an interruption, acknowledge it. Excuse me, I need to get a delivery. You can put that in the chat if it's a larger group and you don't want to interrupt. And try not to muddy task, because it is so easy to check out entirely. And I think that's another reason these things are so exhausting, because people aren't paying attention. And that is palpable. You can feel that. And, the phone, go ahead. Was there a comment? And the phone is wonderful. Use the phone when you can. It's efficient. We know how to use it. And it's not a visual, but if you're only talking to 1, maybe 2 people maximum, it's a pretty close direct connection in terms of that feel of real conversation, that ability to smoothly conduct a conversation. And leave clear voice messages on your, too soon, on your, wait a minute, I can't get this out of the way. Outgoing message, you want to make sure you have one. It's amazing to me now that many of us are working from a cell phone or a different line, that people are not recording their names on their answering devices. and clear your mailbox so people can actually read messages, leave messages, and check them from time to time. And finally, when it comes to email, this quote's been attributed to many people, but I'm choosing Mark Twain. Keep it short. We have so much going on right now. It's so hard to find time to do anything, let alone everything. Make your subject line as clear and current as possible. If you're communicating with someone that you have a close, very comfortable relationship with, you can put the message right in the subject line. Endless chains, you may want to update the subject line, or they become impossible to search if you're looking for them. And courtesy, have something warm, whether that's at least a hi or a take care or a thank you, something. And courtesy, prompt replies, even if you cannot do everything they ask or send everything they need right away, at least got it, back to you shortly. I love that word shortly because it can really mean anything. And recipients, this is an old one, but don't send things to more people than need to know. And if you're scheduling a meeting, so it's a message sent to a group of people, only the scheduler needs to know that you're free after 4 on Tuesday, and you'll need to leave by 6 o'clock for a dentist appointment. And the morning isn't good because your son's going to need supervision. I mean, just send it to the person who's managing the calendar. And finally, these are big little words I really like. Encouraging people to tell you more, especially if you're not sure you fully understood what they've said. Admitting you were wrong, if you were. Saying, may I have your help, rather than will you do me a favor, which sounds very transactional and makes people suspicious. And compliments, they mean a lot. And they mean even more now that we're so disconnected. And you can never, never thank people enough. So I thank all of you. And when you finish your programs, your meetings, your presentations, I strongly feel, this is right up there with the therapeutic hour, that it is best to let everyone leave, everyone depart the screen before you as the host end the meeting. Because I personally feel dismissed, like a door's been slammed in my face, if I'm still there and the screen goes dark and I have no control over it. So thank you, everybody. We have run a little over, but I'm happy to stay a few more minutes if there's more question or discussion you'd like to have.
2 quick questions. One is, about backgrounds, right? So on the one hand, it's nice to have a nice background. On the other hand, it's better to be a plain background. And just for examples, like, I guess Lauren has got I'm not distracted at all in any way, good or bad. Mary's background's like, oh, those are nice flowers back there. And those are really kind of pretty cups back there. And so it's a nice background, but is that a benefit or a detriment to a meeting? Sorry for picking on you guys. It's just a good example.
No, pick on everybody. That's really good. And in fact, here, I'm going to give you a quick change. There's my cool green chair. This is fabric on a shower rod. I ordered it from Walmart. So when I'm doing more straightforward client meetings during the day, I have a plain background, but then I will move the flowers that are now on my dining table and put them over on another table. So, there's no one right or wrong. The only things I would caution against, and really the proportion and being seen on the screen, having the camera at an optimal level is best. If you have a lot of clutter in the background that's not arranged in some fashion, it can be very distracting. And now I'm noticing my necklace is out of line, so we always are seeing. But the other thing that can be problematic, even with a plain background, and that isn't an issue for anybody here, is that, as crazy as it sounds, if you have pale hair and pale skin and you're against a white background, you disappear. So that's why when I'm with the white background, and also I don't want to clash with my flowers, I wear something dark or I kind of blend into it. So the contrast factor matters. But again, even if you have the most beautifully decorated home with no clutter, if you have, for instance, a clock that looks like it's sticking out of your head, I mean, it's so sort of ridiculously petty, but you want to curate your tableau. And if you need help with that, then it's good to enlist a colleague or a friend to give you a little guidance on how it all looks, because we're used to what we see in the background, and the contrast and the proportion is really the most important thing, so that things aren't competing for the attention you want to get.
Then one other question that was helpful, thank you, is so these guys, which were I'm getting stuck.
Sing here. I just. Oh, you can't see me. I'm sorry.
Right. I completely destroyed this somehow.
We still hear you. That's a good sign.
Yeah, I'm actually okay. The headset, like
Uh-huh.
this thing.
Yeah.
It's really dorky, but it does cut back the background noise. And I don't know what it does for the sound. Do you recommend these or not so much?
You know, that's something I've never been asked, and I don't have a particular opinion because I don't use them. It's not technology that's appealed to me, and that's only probably because I am a Luddite at heart. I suppose if now Donna's got a different version, if there's a more, streamlined version available, that might be beneficial. I don't know how they compare in terms of usage.
Okay. It does a great job of cutting out the background noise, but it just feels very unnatural.
Well, then you've answered your question.
Yeah.
And background noise, is that more distracting for you then? Does that throw you off?
It can.
Yeah, well, then you could, pick and choose. Some days you may feel more focused and others not. I will say that if background noise, for instance, construction, is not distracting to you, people do not tend to hear that, just because these microphones are not that sensitive. So they tend to only pick up what's nearby or what's a really sharp sound, like a dog barking or someone yelling.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, what a nice way to end a Tuesday. It's been wonderful to talk with everyone.
Thank you very much. This was very helpful.
Great.
I appreciate it.
Great, Riley. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you guys
glad.
so much for doing this for us. I really appreciate it. Like I said, we will turn this into a podcast so that everybody can go back to it. And you've got a question from Carrie. Do you see the questions coming in chat, Riley?
I need to look for it, but go ahead and talk if you can, Carrie.
Let me see. Where did it go? You've got a question. What do you see as the future of this technology? Where are we going with it?
Well, I'd like to go to the recycling dump with it, but I think we're going to continue to work with it. I think there will be some upgrades and enhancements. I think that, as was said earlier, there are definitely certain advantages. I don't think it is as problematic with a one-on-one or a very small group conversation. I mean, this was a perfect number tonight. I think the larger meetings are just as ineffective as those dreadful conference calls with 60 people on it. So my only hope is that, due to the limitations of the screen, maybe some of the meetings are going to get smaller, and that would be a benefit. But undoubtedly, we're going to be in a hybrid situation forever. But if the technology is improved, I think that will help a lot.
There's another question on here too, from Carrie, asking you what camera you would suggest to use with this technology.
That's a question I would have to defer to my friend Matthew with the Star Trek photo, because I don't even know what camera I'm using. It's just built into my ThinkPad, which isn't very helpful, but it's true. And I'll also say that I do have a tip sheet on this, and if you'd like to contact me, I'm happy to, where did it go? Send you that, and that will give some more tips and be a refresher on what we talked about tonight. But yes, there are different grades and qualities of camera. I actually find in my anecdotal observations that the lighting and the background matters more than the camera. Most cameras are pretty decent. It's what you make of them.
Thank you.
You're
Right.
welcome. You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Riley, so much for taking the time. We really do appreciate it. And we will pass on your information to everybody as well, in case anybody wants to reach out and have you.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Appreciate it.
Bless you,
God
Courtney.
bless you.
I know, I'm usually don't see.
Bring
This was
allergies.
wonderful.
And on that note, I guess we can just say goodnight to everybody. Thank you all for logging in. And again, Riley, thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.